Okay, it's that time of the week. Let's get it. Indeed. Man talk, man talk, man talk, man talk, man talk central. That's what we're doing here. 4 dudes out of the mud, now we're ruling here. We give it to you, deliver like Amazon. You're listening to Kings and Champions. No matter what we're talking about, we're gonna give it to you straight, man, no doubt. No doubt. Hey yo, we on our way to greatness. God's got our back, so chill and relax. This is Man Talk Central. Welcome back to another episode of Man Talk Central. Let's get it.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Man Talk Central, where experience meets perspectives and nothing is off limits. Before I go any further, everybody need to give a shout out to the New York Knicks and the San Antonio Spurs. The first 2 games, man, been outstanding. But anyway, I'm not a Knicks fan, but I'm representing the orange, and we'll go from there. Back to Man Talk Central. No filters, no fluff, just raw, uncut conversation. Before we get into it, make sure you tap in with us. Like, follow, subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also reach us directly at email below. Now let's get to it. Let me introduce to some and present to others. 3 brothers like no other. Dan, talk to us, brother. Good morning.
Good morning to everybody out there. Hey, it's been a good series so far. Let's see what happens. All right.
I'm saying DJ Eddie T. Good morning.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Good morning, all. Thank you for joining us. Hope you enjoy the episode.
Colonel Esquire. Good morning.
We outside, gang. We outside. Good morning. Good morning. Hey, the Knicks. Hey, we unite the city. Crime is down. Everybody loving everybody. Hey, I'm just ready for this new episode. Let's get into it.
It's over. Believe it, Knicks fans, for the first time in 27 years, the New York Knicks are going to the NBA Finals. The dream season continues, and hopes of ending a decades-long championship drought are very much alive.
We the ones, put in work, that's how it's done, side by side, it's all I know is saying lie, we the ones, we the ones.
Yeah, the crime is down, but them rats are still out there plentiful. And I'm your host, RB3, the law-abiding citizen. So we have topics to talk to you guys about today. Serving 2 gods, the church versus fraternal orders. So with that, fellas, let's open up with the question that hits both the spiritual side and the cultural side of our community. A lot of folks find purpose in church and others find it in fraternal organizations. But is there a point where those two start pulling you in different directions? Are people serving 2 gods without realizing it? Let's get into that tension, that loyalty, and that identity. I'm going to go ahead and start with Colonel Esquire. What are your thoughts, sir?
Okay. All right. Well, let me first start off by saying that, I never pledged, but I wanted to. We had talked about that briefly in one of the earlier episodes where I went to the school, the college that I went to, the year I wanted to pledge. That chapter, was under investigation or probation or whatever. Long story short, they weren't accepting any lines that year because of a potential hazing issue. Looking back now, I consider it a blessing in disguise. I've always had an issue with the secrecy of it that went on. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, I know that there's a process, and I know that there's certain things that any profession or organization or club has to go through. But it was like, me personally, whenever I would ask them questions about it, when I got to a certain extent or got to a certain point, they'd be like hands off and be defensive, and then be kind of like, kind of cloudy as far as what they wanted to say. Or they would just flat out say, well, hey, I can't tell you anything else until you become a part. So I always like, man, hey, if you recruiting, you ought to be able to tell me everything I need to know. But I get it. When I got in the Army, and then people had approached me about other organizations, I didn't do it then because the group I was around wasn't inspiring to me. And what I mean by that is I wasn't trying to be holier than thou, but it was like, okay, well, what you're presenting to me, I can do on my own. Like, you know what I'm saying? You know, you want to if you want to improve your life and you want to do things better, you know, what's the old saying? You got to gravitate towards people that are how you want to be. And at that time, I wasn't around those people. I mean, they were still smoking, drinking, wilding out. I can do that on my own, or I can do that with my own group of friends. I didn't necessarily need to join an organization to do that. But I said all that as a segue for my personal reasons. But I think that there's been a lot of criticism over the years as far as fraternities because of the spiritual aspect. And I don't want to say too much about that. All I will say is that I think everything comes down to criticism of the church. So, you know, people criticize the church for, you know, tithes and offerings, but no one has a problem with, you know, being financially committed to paying your dues for all these organizations. So, I mean, that right there, it's like, okay, well, what's the difference? You're still committed financially to a cause or an organization. So I don't know why you would want to do that, or why would you want to criticize the church when you're essentially doing a similar thing over here. And there's been a lot of criticism as far as like, well, are Masons or fraternities, are they really like, you know, doing the right thing as far as God goes? All I will say is this. If you're a man of faith or a woman of faith, if you call yourself a Christian, you should be reading your Bible. If you read your Bible and your lifestyle and the organization doesn't match up with what you believe, then I would do something different. If you wake up every day and you are doing things that matches with your faith and the lifestyle and what you read in the Bible, and it matches up with the organization that you're with, I'm all for it. And so, you know, I'm not going to get into these big conspiracy theories about what's behind the scenes. You know, this over here is really demonic, posing as a spiritual thing, whatever the case is. I'm just saying, you got to know who you are. You got to know the organization you're tied to. But at the end of the day, you got to look at yourself in the mirror and just believe what you're doing is the right thing. And if you're a Christian and if it's based on biblical principles, why not? If it's not, maybe look at doing something different. And there are some people who, you know, have renounced their fraternity or organization after becoming a Christian. See, I don't know anything about that because I never pledged, I never joined. So for me to sit there and criticize it in that regard, it would be inappropriate because I don't know what I'm talking about. You see what I'm saying? Because I didn't experience. Now, I do not know that some of my friends didn't want to go through all of the, I guess, shenanigans when you're younger, you know, but they joined a graduate chapter. And, you know, I don't know what the difference is between the graduate chapter versus when you're joining your undergraduate. I don't know. But, you know, I know that my sister, she joined the Delta graduate chapter, and she seems to enjoy that. So, and when I briefly talked to her about it a few years ago, she was like, oh, no, none of that stuff that goes on in colleges happened at the graduate chapter. But then I didn't push it any further than that. So that's what I'll say. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm kind of, yes, I wanted to join, but looking back, I'm glad I didn't. But I'm not going to criticize anybody else for joining because at the end of the day, we all got to, you know, I believe we all got to be held accountable for the things that we do and say. And, you know, if your organization is doing good work, it's lining up with what the Bible says or biblical principles, who am I to judge it?
Outstanding. DJ Eddie T.
Yes, sir. Well, first of all, first commandment states that there should be no other gods before me. So with that being said, when I pledged, none of what we did put our fraternity above God. I know a lot of the people that are, you know, backing out, denouncing their fraternity / sorority nowadays are saying that you're worshiping two idols and all of that. I basically have to kind of get on the coattail of Colonel Esquire it's really up to you and how you're presenting yourself or, worshiping, because again, my whole chapter, anybody that I've ever even dealt with in my fraternity, they have never, ever, ever, ever taken any pledge that I know of for the fraternity over God. A lot of our pledge sessions, we were learning scriptures. So I'm pretty sure that's the same with your fraternity, Rob, or law-abiding citizen. Sorry, sir. But anyway, I just know that, again, if you're a Christian, you know the first commandment of the Bible, that there should be no other gods before me. Bottom line. After that, you can, put things in order. But I feel that most people that are denouncing, they act as if whatever process they went through, I guess they feel as if they are putting their fraternity / sorority above God. So that's their choice. I haven't, I'm not going to denounce because I know where I stand. So that's my take on it. But as Colonel Esquire said about like dues, you do what you do. You be obedient to God, and if you have dues, no matter whether it's a fraternity, a sorority, whether it's Elks Lodge, whether it's the Kiwanis and Lions, I guess those are still around. You used to see those little signs that you pull into town. But everyone has dues. Any organization to continue to keep itself going, you're going to have dues. So that shouldn't even be an issue. But anyway, that's my take on it. I know it's just kind of short and choppy, but that could go on forever if we, were to continue to discuss something like that. But I'm not bowing out, but I'm just saying that's my take on it. I know where I stand with God. There's no other person or thing that I'm going to put before God, because I know where my blessings come from. So there we have it.
Outstanding, sir. Thank you, sir. Dan.
Yeah, when question's kind of loaded for me. I've never pledged, so I can't really talk on that aspect of it. No disrespect to anybody that has. If you have, hey, more power to you. And I've been multiple religions growing up, so everybody has their own preference of what religion they want to be. I think where it comes to being in the military, that is a conflict itself with a lot of religions. Thou shalt not kill, but here you are assisting with killing. So, we can go 50 million routes with it. I was approached to pledge when I first joined the military. Chose not to for my own reasons. It was unclear, as Colonel Esquire put it, kind of murky. When I was asking questions about what's going on and how this works and asking a few questions, they kind of stopped at a certain point and couldn't give me any more answers. So I think that kind of turned me off to it, to be honest with you. Like I said, nothing wrong. So I know a lot of guys that are in the fraternities that love it. And they are able to both coordinate their fraternity activities and their duties to their Lord and Savior, whoever that may be, because some of them are Muslims and some of them are Christians, and you have different religions. My daughter, when she was going through college, was approached to pledge, and we had conversations about it. Also, when I went to college, I was approached again. I was approached while I was deployed multiple times. Just felt like it wasn't for me. I'll leave it at that because I don't want to disrespect anybody. More power to you if you can balance both, but I would refer to the people who are in the church and are pledged with your DJ Eddie T and law-abiding citizen, and let you guys take it from there. Not trying to make excuses, but fraternities just wasn't for me. It wasn't my thing. I've always been a standalone kind of guy. I don't mind jumping in and helping out with whatever's going on, but that's not my thing. I've already joined one fraternity, which was the military, and I think that was enough for me.
You ain't never lied. There's benefits with that one, though. Thank you, thank you, Dan. So there's a lot of things I pulled out of this. And first, I will start off by saying, whatever you choose, it's your individual walk. That's what a lot of people have to realize. It's your individual walk. Whether it's you stay on the road to being a Christian or whatever religion you study, or you're in a fraternal walk, you're in both. It's all about your individual walk. A lot of times, people always say that organizations criticize the church. I've always found it in my walk that it's always been the church criticizing the organizations, because they were like, well, why can't you do this with the church, right? And I think both, or I believe both, serve legitimate purposes, because sometimes the people that you're trying to reach, they may lean towards someone that might be in colors, that might be dancing, to understand and develop a faith walk, right? Whereas others may be more aligned with the traditional way of the religious practice, going to church every Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever days your faith sees fit. So again, I will always say it's the individual walk and what your beliefs are. Tithes versus dues. You know, I'll be honest with you, I'm not a big tither, right? I'm not a big tither because I've seen the misuse of funds, right? Whereas with my dues, I can see exactly where my dues are going and what they're going to support, especially when I was heavily involved in masonry. You know, I saw where my money was going, right? I knew what was going on, right? Compared to the rumor control about pastor such and such might be misusing this, that, and the other. Once again, it's about individual walks, and that's that individual's right to either pay dues and tithes or both. My wife, she's a member of a organization, and she does both religiously. I've just always been a dues guy. Every quarter I'll send some money to the church, but I don't do monthly tithing. I often wonder what happened to the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. Nobody ever complained about them. I'm just saying, what's really going on, right? Bad apples. I will always say bad apples spoil the bunch, and that's on both sides. Bad apples in church, bad apples in fraternal organizations. You know, because, and the bad thing about it is, if law-abiding citizen is in this chapter or this lodge, and I do something, now I done represented the whole organization. No difference than when a pastor, if he does something, he's representing the whole organization. Once again, it's the individual walk, and sometimes we have a problem with separating the two and realize it was just that man or that group that fraud and, you know, misused their platform for their well-being. Let me see. Hazing. I will say that I always say when I hear someone that belongs to a fraternity, a D9 fraternity, and they come out to my denouncing, that means their process was horrible. Now, I'm a firm believer that you can't tell, like Ephraim and Dan, or even Ed, if y'all said, hey, y'all want to become a Freemason, right? You know, I could tell you a lot of things, but what I can't tell you is just the ritualistic things, the things that happen ceremonially. But then there's so many other things that I could tell you about the organization to help with your decision making. But you got to understand something. There's always that little secret piece, right? If it was open for everybody to know, granted, you could go buy a ritual, right? But if I would tell you everything in theory, the process might be a little different. But I will always say it depends on the education of that brother that you deal with and that you talk to, because you can talk about everything dealing with masonry. My fraternal organization I'm part of, I talk about everything dealing with that, right? And then you can put the pieces together as you go through the process. But again, it's all about that individual. Sometimes back in those days, in the 90s, it was all about, hey, let's just get membership. This guy's cool, he's straight, he hangs out with us, let's bring him aboard. Hence how I became a Mason in '93. Everybody that played on my community basketball team was a Mason, but me and my line brother, or my cable toe, as we referred to in Freemasonry, right? So, you know, we joined and it was pretty cool. DJ, you have a question?
Yeah, I was speaking of the secrecy part. If everyone knew what, say, you know, my fraternity meant, if they knew what the letters meant, if they knew all of that, then there would be no secret. What would be the purpose? I mean, you strive for basically brotherhood, of course, and then you strive to know what has made your fraternity what it is. So if you just walk around and everyone knew the answer and everyone knew the whole purpose, there'd probably be no interest in all reality. I know each organization of D9 Each has, you look at the shield, all the shields mean different things. So if you were to just walk around and just have what that meant, just on a t-shirt or whatever the case is, again, I feel as if no one would even be interested. But your particular personality has drawn you to whatever organization or fraternity/sorority that you have decided to join. That's just my opinion. I don't think, well, there's no thinking. I wouldn't have pledged anything else. I already know that for a fact, that because it just didn't fit me. So what I chose to do was perfect. We have a chant that if I wouldn't have pledged, I wouldn't have pledged. So, I mean, but anyway, I just wanted to kind of throw that out there because it's kind of like, hey, this is Man Talk Central. If you have a young lady who basically has on nothing, you're like, well, I see it all. But if you kind of leave a little something to the imagination, now you're interested, you're curious. Am I right? Same thing.
She might be trying to air it out. She might be trying to air it out. Dog, great points. Great points. It's always a touchy subject. It's a very touchy subject. And you have those individuals who, like, for example, my father, he has always been an individual his whole life. As he's aged and, he might say, wow, I wish I would have had, some friends or, organization to belong to have more relationships, right? Like, it's just all relationships. It's a network, right? It's just another network. Hell, we're a network, right? So the only difference is we ain't hazing nobody. Ain't nobody getting in the cut. There are no sets, right? So, there are no dues with us, right? The only dues is, Ephraim's picking up the check next time we all four together. But anyway, that's just how we roll. But that's us, right? So, I done lost my train of thought. But any alibis regarding churches versus fraternal organizations?
Yeah, I had let me lower my hand. I had it up. I think this is a great topic because we could probably spend the whole episode on this alone. But I would just say, I just think we're going back to the tithing situation. People, justifiably so. They want to know where their money's going, and they're concerned because there are some organizations out there who, you're getting all this money, but I guess some people are like, well, the people aren't benefiting. Well, tithing is a form of financial discipline. And so you can't tithe and then blow all your money at the casino and then blame the pastor because he wants you to tithe.
No! 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 Everything! Everything! Everything!
See what I'm saying? You can't tithe and then you blow your money trying to buy the bar out, or when you give the $3 tips for your $8 coffee at Dutch Brothers each week or every day when you go to work. You see what I'm saying? And then you blame the pastor, you blame God because you don't have any money. Well, it's the tithing. The tithing is not the issue. It's your lack of financial discipline. You see what I'm saying? And nobody is worried about, somebody who embezzles the money all the time. But because he's a man of the cloth, he's supposed to be held to a high standard. And he is. He is supposed to be held to a high standard. But then again, the CEO is held to a high standard too. That woman taking your tip money from the coffee and never getting your coffee order right, them tips should be taken out too, deducted for that. But we don't bat an eye. We go there the next day and still buy that same messed up cup of coffee and still give that tip and then complain about it. So I'm just saying, I know there are hypocrites everywhere in the world. We're all hypocrites, but let's stop with the whole double standard stuff as far as that goes. As far as the secrecy, yeah, I know what that woman's got underneath that dress. Yeah, I want to see it, but at least I know what's under there. Y'all trying to show me y'all trying to show me something and tell me about something, but I don't know what's under there. It could be surprise, Optimus Prime. You see what I'm saying? I'll leave it at that.
Transformers, more than meets the eye. Autobots wage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons. The Transformers, robots in disguise. The Transformers, more than meets the eye. The Transformers.
Oh no!
If you know, you know. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you know, you know. So again, I got it. We want to criticize, the men of the cloth, but nobody was criticizing Big Brother Almighty when he was doing what he was doing in those fraternities, right? So I'm just saying.
I'll be honest. That's why I had the Jerry curl. I wanted the little light skinned Joker to lick my doggone skull. But anyway, that's a story.
All right, I'm good off that.
Yeah. So with that, let's talk about the tithing piece again, right? Because I've always been an advocate on wanting to see where my money goes, right? And I've always my wife and I've had this conversation. I said, look, my tithing is when I see somebody need something, I give them the money. That's my tithing because I know where it's going, right? Tipping. There's several times I've been in places to whereas, you could tell the lady's a little under duress or whatever. She's very friendly, whatever. She'll get an extra tip from me, right? Because I know she's struggling with something, right? Maybe it's because my development in the church as a young man, seeing what I saw and being around what I saw, drove me into being kind of standoffish a little bit about just giving my money religiously. I know my mother's married to a pastor, and I was visiting him just several years ago, and it was like, no, we can't give sister such and such money for her electric bill. This is the third time this year. So my question to her was, okay, well, who's providing her some type of financial counseling? One thing is to help pay for someone to get their electricity turned back on. She has kids. Let's not be so cut and dry. But are you guys providing any type of financial literacy for the individual? Because some people don't know how to manage money. No matter how you look at it, some people do not know how to manage money. And especially in our culture, financial literacy is not really taught. It's learned through trial and error, right? So, again, I would just say it's from my own benefit. I'd rather go out there and lose $700 at the casino because I had a chance to double it. But I feel more comfortable. It's funny to use that analogy because I feel more comfortable than to just give it to a church outright. Now, the church that we attend, we sponsor about 5 kids. But again, I only tithe once a quarter. I don't tithe every month. But again, it goes back to what I said in the beginning. It's everybody's individual walk. I'm not going to criticize that pastor unless it's that pastor that's sitting up in there taking pictures and sending it to somebody in their sportswear. That's a different conversation. DJ,
Yeah, question for you. When you say you tithe once a quarter,
yeah.
And I'm not getting into your financial
you good.
business, but I'm just saying, when you tithe once a quarter, are you tithing off of everything you've made that quarter?
Nope, it's whatever I feel like at the time.
Oh, okay.
And I know they always talk about the 10% piece, so on and so forth, right?
Correct.
I do more for people that's it's over my 10% of what I earn. That's how I look at it, right? So that's just, again, that's my own individual walk. Dan.
Yeah, I just want to touch on it. Yeah, when you talk about what's under the dress and what's behind the curtain, I think there are some people that, speaking from the other side of the fence, some people want transparency when it comes to organizations. I think that will turn them off if they don't have that transparency. I know that's what turned me off. I didn't have that transparency when it was time to get down to business and join a fraternity. You got the veil, you got the curtain. What's behind the curtain? With the military, you know what's behind that curtain. They tell you what's behind that curtain. So that was an easier task or easier fit because you knew what you were getting into. You knew your life was on the line. Now with the fraternities, there's different fraternities and different set of rules, different beliefs, I believe, and different ways of life. Without me knowing which way to go, that's one of the reasons I stayed away from it. And that's just, because we brought that piece up about behind the curtain. And the other thing about the tithe is when we start talking about that, and I get it, the 10%, and churches do different things and they spend money different ways. But me growing up as adolescents, as with law-abiding citizen, I think that's what shaped my view of the church, because we went to multiple churches, obviously, multiple religions, like I had stated before. But one of the main ones we went to was, and I'm not going to say the name of the church because I hated that church. But my parents were giving tithes all the time. They were actually tithing 30%. So you're 10% for the church, you're 10% for some other BS, and then another 10% because we had to go to functions in different areas and church activities. Well, if we're giving the 10% to the church, we didn't even have a brick and mortar place to go worship. They were using rented out spots for places to hold their services. Now, where's that money going? And then nobody wants to answer. The pastor needs this or the pastor needs that. This is a big congregation, and there's tithes going out, and if everybody's doing their 10%, which obviously I'm not in everybody's pocket, why don't we at least have a brick and mortar place? Why are we renting out these halls? You know what I mean? So a lot of that started to be questioned, and nobody's answering these questions. Now, if they were answering these questions, all right, cool, I got it. Now you can formulate what's going on, but you're not even getting those questions answered. That's what turns me off to a lot of that stuff there. So each person has their own walk of life, like y'all said. Not trying to knock y'all. I can only speak from my experience. So that's one of the reasons I stayed away from fraternities. I mean, that was a major reason because there's no behind the curtain look. And that's one of the reasons I stay away from some of these churches. And I'm a personal believer that what happens between you and God is between you and God, and no man out here can tell you how to walk your life. Only you and God can do that, and whoever your God may be.
DJ NET, great point there.
Okay, yeah, I was just jotting down some notes so I didn't forget everything. But one of the points that Dan had mentioned was about the tithing. Now, if everyone tithed, Dan, then I feel as if your church would have a brick and mortar. Because everyone, I would say, attempts to give offerings or whatever the case is. Say if you have a church of 500 people, you'd be surprised the number of the 500 people that don't tithe. Now, I am into my church. I'm married to PK. Both of our parents are pastors. So in the last, I'd say, 3 or 4 years, I've really understood the meaning of tithing, and I see what tithing does. Now, I'm not going to say every church does it, but there have been a couple of churches that I've attended. At the end of the year, they will give you a breakdown of where the money goes. But like our church doesn't necessarily give a breakdown, but our pastors give updates monthly about what's going on within the church, where things are going and what we're doing with it. So there is no question as to what is truly going on with what you're giving. I mean, we're doing renovations and, again, giving updates of what's going on. So people don't question. And our pastors have an open door. Hey, if you have a question about something, come in and talk to me, or come in and talk to us. And my pastor even states when people join, hey, give God a year of your life. And if you don't see a change, then basically you're free to do what you want to do. But at least give him a year of your life, tithe, and watch your life change. I know I've seen mine change personally. I've seen ours change, my wife and I, because we tithe regularly. Consistently. And things just happen. So I'm pretty sure Colonel Esquire I know for a fact Colonel Esquire can attest, because if you step into his house, I'm not trying to be funny or anything, but that's a blessed individual right there. He and Carrie are extremely blessed. That man wants for nothing. And that's how I look at it. He said, if you're obedient, I'll show you what I can do. Basically, I kind of just, dumbed it down. But I don't see any other way to go by. What's the word I'm looking for? I'm sorry, I'm lost for words. Everything is kind of scrambled, but there's no way in the world that I could not tithe nowadays, because I know exactly how God has been showing up in my life.
Great point. Before I hit you, Colonel Squad, I want to touch on something DJ Eddie T said, right? I believe we're all blessed on this call, whether we tithe or not. I believe that we've all reached levels of success, whether we tithe or not. I believe it's our decision making that's not connected to tithing that helps with where we are today. So, although there is a belief that if you tithe, blessings will come to you, cup overflow with all that great stuff, which is probably true. Or is that just what is taught? Now I'm gonna hit another point. Or is that just what is taught, and we grow up in it, and we have that belief that it's the only way we have to, it's the only way to be for things to be right. I know my mother. Look, when she got divorced from Dwight and she lost the house, she was still tithing big checks to the church, but yet had no money to take care of the house. Tithing big checks to the church when she moved to Washington, but yet I received nothing from my senior year in high school from my mother, right? Well, it was $50, $25, right? So again, I think it's personal experiences that warrants why individuals tithe or not. Now, I would say the church I go to, you can, to your point, DJ ADT, that I see it. I see all the places that they build for unprivileged kids. I've seen it for first-time home buyers, young couples, just, getting a little assistance from the church. I've seen it for, when COVID hit and jokers was losing jobs and things of that nature, right? So I've seen what money from a church can truly do for its people, right? And even the people that don't really attend church, there's people within those communities. So I'm a believer that, to your point, if all 500 gave X amount of dollars, then you would have had a building to go into. And Colonel Esquire.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. No. I'm piggybacking off of all of that. So, agreed. So I will say this: I can assume that every single one of us either grew up or went to churches, organizations, and you had questions, and you looked at it like, well, hey, why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? And I guess what's the term? I think the term is called church hurt. I think there are a lot of people who are suffering from that, and so they're turned off from that. And I get it. I'm not tripping. I mean, I was that way for a long time. I mean, I went to a mega church. Everybody knows, mega churches I got issues with, but I was more focused on the person as opposed to the deity, if that makes sense. And I think once I got older and started realizing, okay, well, I mean, I'm trying to serve God and not man, I think that cleared my perspective. But the tithing, I think a lot of people don't realize. Most religious leaders understand that most people aren't going to tithe and give their money. Like that church is going to stay open. Either they're going to work and support it. They have other streams of revenue to support it. There's all kind of ways to support the church. The tithing is for an individual benefit. It's not necessarily, yes, people who, preachers, it's a biblical principle, so they're going to preach it or they'll talk about it. But the tithing really is not for their benefit. It's for your benefit as an individual. The same way that, and I remember, I don't know where we were at in RB, Law Abiding Citizen. If you remember, make sure you don't convey any details, because that was back when we was really wilding out. But we were in Dallas one time. I think it was at the Dallas-Philly football game or something. We were walking downtown. And I remember to this day, some ratchet homeless dude on the street, you gave him some money, And I was hot. I was like, man, why are you giving that dude money? Because I think a month before that, I was on the north side of Tulsa, and I gave this dude some money because I was looking for this party, and I gave this dude some money because I was like, Lord help, protect me, don't get me shot out here where I go, stunning on these women at this party. That's my thinking back then. So, but then I was looking for it because back then it wasn't GPS or whatever. It was just MapQuest. So I'm driving around, and the same homeless dude I gave money to, he was at the store buying some liquor. So I was like, you know what? Fool me once, shame on me. Shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. So then when you gave him that money, I was hot. I was like, man, don't give that fool that money. And you were like, hey, I'm doing it because I want to do it, and I'm not going to mess up my blessing. He does with it what he wants. And that's kind of the same way I feel about the tithing. If you're tithing for your blessing and for your financial discipline, like, yes, I'm going to be upset if I read the newspaper and I find out the organization that I gave to went off to, the Maldives or something and didn't pay the rent on the church or whatever, and they got a foreclosure sign. I get all that. But my individual blessings and prosperity is not going to be affected because I'm doing the right thing. That's where my faith falls. Right. I'm the one giving because I've been commanded to do so. And me personally, my life has been much better since I've started doing that. So I have to, yes, you got to be accountable. You got to be aware. But I, on an individual note, I've been much better. And so I try to ignore the noise and the criticism to a certain extent because that's for me. That's for me. Now, granted, now, of course, if I give a donation and come to find out the pastor is, checking in the laureate for rehab, you see what I'm saying? Then I probably have to do something different. But by and large, I think we focus on the fact that it's an individual walk, but then we don't focus on us when it comes to criticizing the pastor. That's where my disconnect is. Like, it's an individual walk here, you do what you want, but then why are we holding this dude accountable? You know what I mean? Like, we should hold him accountable, but I mean, like, why are we going to give up? It's like the example. You go on the Planet. I'm going to go to the Planet Fitness after this podcast. You know how many fat people I'm going to see in the gym? I'm still going to go work out because I'm going there for me. I'm not going to walk in there and be indignant and outraged. Oh, look at all these fatties in here. I'm leaving. I ain't never coming back. No, I'm going to go and work out.
But I don't mean to interrupt you, but real quick, I want to make sure.
No, I'm good on that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to make sure there's a thorough understanding. What I'm saying is, tithing is one thing, but tithing without work is nothing. Yes, you tithe, but you also do things differently in your life than you did before. So it's not just tithing.
Agreed. Right. Yeah.
And then as far as, I'm going to pick on DJ Eddie T, your homeboy down in Houston. I think it's Houston. Lakewood, that's Houston, right? Joel Osteen, do you guys remember when the big flood came through there?
Right.
And he was like, ain't nobody coming up not in my church. But that's not his church. It's the people's church. Now, don't get me wrong. I get what happened at the Superdome, I think it was, in New Orleans, and all that great stuff. But the people were struggling, were about to die, had the opportunity to die. He didn't want to open up his building to let people in.
Correct.
Anybody want to talk about that?
I've only gone over there twice, and it was never to attend the service. It was to hear two speakers. So I don't really know much about it, but I know my wife's family, they were members there, and they respect the Osteens. But there were so many people down here that saw that side. I've never dealt with that particular church in any kind of way, but from what I know, they do great things for the city of Houston. So being that I'm on the outside looking in, there is one incident of that in particular, but what do we always say? People can do 100 positive things, but you do one negative thing, and that's what they want to look at.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure there was some reasoning behind that. People just coming in and tearing up the facility, whatever the case is.
It don't matter. The facility is there for the people. That's
Well,
my
you
point.
have a
I get
point.
that. That's my point. The building that a pastor and his congregation builds is for the people. It's not just for him. It's not just for the people that attend that church. It's for the people.
Right. But look at what happened in the Superdome as well.
Yeah, but that wasn't built for the people. That was built for football, for social, right? I guess.
Hold on. Wait, whoa, hold on. It's built for the people. That's why they put so many seats in there. Because the Saints can have as many games as they want to, but if nobody's there, that the Superdome will shut down.
Right, but
So,
the basis.
so again, it's built for the people.
Right, but the basis of them building that was for entertainment. The
Okay.
church wasn't built for entertainment.
No, you have a point.
Right.
Absolutely.
Right, and don't get me wrong, I get your point, right? I'm just pointing that one thing out, right? At the end of the day, nobody is perfect. Whether you're
Right.
a pastor or you that one lonely soul that's trying to walk in that building to be saved. But when that lonely soul walks in that building to be saved, he or she probably has already a preconceived notion, either from their own experience or, what they have heard, and certain things turn people off. And lastly, Colonel Esquire, in Augusta, Georgia, that same scenario happened. Me and a friend was walking down Broad Street. This guy was like, "Oh man," he was rubbing his belly. "Oh, I'm hungry, man. Can I get like $20?" Literally, he acted the part. He could have been on a Tyler Perry movie. I said, "Man, we're going to eat too. Come on, follow us." Came in that joke. I asked the manager, "Hey, can this?" Because he smelled kind of bad, looked kind of bad. I said, "Can this guy sit at the table and eat? I'll pay for his meal, so on and so forth." Man, that dude was over there. I said, "Order what you want." Man, we ate, we left, continued, walked. We came back and I saw him again. "Hey, brother, you think you can give me $20? And I said, "Hey, man, I just fed you, man. I don't have anything. You're going to edit this part." He said, "Well, you there." So since then, yeah, I'm kind of leery. I'm a little bit more. So, but that was always my way because my dad was homeless for a little while. So anytime I saw a homeless person that came up to me, I always felt the need because I was always saying to myself, for them 3 days my father was homeless, if he had asked for money, somebody didn't give it to him. That was just my own makeup. But, great dialogue. Any other comments? Any alibis? Now this was a good one today.
Man, that's what I was getting ready to say, man. We could continue this. This should be another for next month or whatever. But yeah, we could go on and on and on, like the song say.
Yeah, just short and sweet so we don't get clipped up. But eventually, Joe Ornstein did open up the doors to the people, and that was eventually. I just wanted to get that clear so we can be fair to that man. I didn't approve of what he did at the beginning. But in the end, he did open the doors up, regardless of how people feel about it.
In my Joel Osteen voice. So, and we're speaking about divided loyalty. The dude, he always has great messages. Him, T.D. Jakes, they've all had pretty strong messages. When I didn't have a church home to attend, I would listen to both of them. So, to your point, I'm glad you did that, Dan, because I didn't think about that.
You better watch out for the wolves. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out, watch out, watch out for the wolves. You better watch out for the wolves. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out, watch out, watch out for the wolves. Watch out for the wolves, cause they dressing up like sheep. They sneaky and they subtle when they walk around and creep. They watch them when you sleep, and not just when your eyes are closed, looking for a way to knock you down like some dominoes. So stay alert, stay awake, stay vigilant. A real one versus the wolf, know the difference. Pay attention, they gon' study like a test. Yep, they get you when you're down, never try you at your best. Always wishing that you fail, never ever for success. Got your life cleaned up, they gon' try to make a mess and fill your life with stress and take your happiness. Their only goal in life, their one and only quest. Yep, smiling in your face, but they wanna take your place. Pretending to be real, but all the while they're fake. A wolf is gonna wolf, cause that's just what they do. If you don't know the wolf,
the wolf is probably you. You better
Watch out for the wolves. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out. Watch out. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out. Watch out. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out. Watch out. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out. Watch out. Watch out for the wolves.
Everybody's got a wolf that they probably go to work with. Just another clown trying to get you in the circus. Acting like your friend, but they have a hidden purpose. But you won't see it if you're only looking at the surface. You gotta go deep, beyond what they're telling you. Forget about the price. Look at what they're selling you. Fronting like they're helping you. But behind closed doors with the boss trying to sabotage your revenue. Speaking from experience. Hard knocks, a thief will steal your stuff even when the car's locked. When something bad happens, then they all mock, but I still shine like diamonds. Argyle sucks. Never let them see you sweat. Don't get nervous. Keep your eyes on God, He will keep you for His purpose.
Amen.
Let the Lord do the fighting. He will bless you, even if He's gotta move you to protect you.
Watch out for the wolves. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out. Watch out. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out. Watch out. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out. Watch out. Watch out for the wolves. Watch out for the wolves.
So with that, let's go with closing remarks, starting with DJ Eddie T.
Well, today has been very knowledgeable for me, and I hope for you listeners as well. But as I always say, keep God first. You should have a great, safe weekend, great, safe week coming up. It's summertime, kids are out of school. Be careful out there because, well, kids don't even go outside anymore, so never mind. So, kids stay inside, play PlayStation. When we were young, we were outside in the streets with our bikes, at the park, swimming pool, all that stuff. But anyway, all jokes aside, enjoy your week, enjoy your weekend, and tithe. If you do nothing else, tithe.
Whether it's monthly, weekly, quarterly.
Make sure you pay your tithes.
Mr. Dan.
Well, everybody out there, hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Whatever you decide on your walk of life, I hope it works out for you. And another thing is, last section is treat everybody how you want to be treated, and hopefully we can all get along.
Can we all just get along? Colonel Squire.
Oh man, keep God first. Stay humble. Have a more to your steps. I still need to do a better job of that, but I digress. But everybody have a great week. Appreciate coming to you guys and girls for that matter and talking about things. We hope that it has given you some perspective, giving you some knowledge to learn and grow off of. And who knows, next week, we might be outside in front of the Frost Arena doing the podcast because, the Knicks are about to come in by force. Look, it's just, you're going to have to bear with me for the next week or two because New York Knickerbockers have taken over life as we know it. So tune in. Thank you for watching, listening, however you digest the information. Man Talk Central.
As we close this episode, let's pause. Honoring the loved ones we lost, appreciating those who still walk beside us, and welcoming the new lives that remind us hope is always being renewed. Remember, our time isn't endless. We got more days behind us than ahead, so choose to make the ones you have left count. Lead with kindness, act with purpose, and whatever you do, do it with conviction. Make your impact, make it meaningful, and above all, make it yours. We thank each of you for your support. Continue to spread the seeds of love and respect. And until next time, we, the four brothers from down under, are saying bing bong.
Bing bang.